All right, well, good morning, everyone. My name is Barbara Zunder. I am the Chief Accessibility Officer here at UVA, and I have the pleasure of introducing Penny Kranz, who is the Vice President of Client Services at DubBot and who will be giving our webinar today. Penny has over 20 years of consulting experience with website best practices and accessibility for higher education organizations. Previous to her consultant work, Penny was a web developer in both the private and public sectors, and so has a broad understanding of the challenges organizations face when it comes to best practices in this area. And Penny is an alum of Georgia Tech and also holds a certified professional in accessibility core competencies certification through the International Association of Accessibility Professionals, or IAAP, of which UVA is a member organization. And if you're interested, hit me up. I know how to get you in. So, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Penny.
Yes, thank you, Brooke. Thanks everyone for joining this session. It is being recorded, so if there's anybody that you want to share this with later on or anybody who couldn't make it, we're happy to go ahead and make that available for you all to use. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen just so that I have the sort of housekeeping taken care of so that we make sure the technology is working. Let me go ahead and close that out and go ahead and bump up the font a bit. Can everyone see my screen? Just kind of a thumbs up if you can. Great, I see a couple thumbs up. So as Brooke mentioned, my name is Penny Kranz. I am the VP of Client Services here at DubBot. I am going to be the main point of contact for reviewing your account and anything that you need. I do have a full support team. We are based out of Atlanta, Georgia area. So we are in the Eastern time. Our support hours will be 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern time. And I just want to highlight that we do support everyone on this call and anyone that gets added to the DubBot account. And we're also happy to extend, we want to consider ourselves an extension of your team. So we will be supporting answering accessibility questions and any sort of how-tos that come up. Without further ado, I am representing DubBot. That's what this webinar is about, just kind of giving you a navigation of how to use the tool. Most of you do not have invites to DubBot yet. We will be sending those out over the next week. So expect an invite to be coming from noreply@dubbot.com. DubBot is being integrated with your SSO system. So you should be able to use your UVA user and password once that is fully configured. It is in testing mode right now. So I will highlight up here in the bar, you will be accessing DubBot through uva.dubbot.com. When you get the invite, it will include that link. So you don't necessarily need to write this down, but I just wanted you to know that when you do get that invite, it is a legit email that is coming, and it should be from noreply@dubbot.com. And the invitation should be pointing you to uva.dubbot.com. When you do accept that invitation, it should just take you to the login screen that is your SSO login for UVA, and that will redirect you to the DubBot application. You will get reports emailed to you unless you opt out of them as soon as you are added to DubBot on a regular cadence, and we'll talk more about that later. All of those links will direct you to this URL. So just know that it should be a pretty seamless process. We do pride ourselves on giving you a workflow that is easy to follow and doesn't make you remember a lot of things. So the main purpose of DubBot is to be a web quality assurance tool. I'm going to quickly go to a DubBot dashboard screen just to talk through our main core tests that we do. So DubBot will be crawling your site, and I'll get into that in a moment, and testing it on a generally weekly cadence, unless that cadence has been updated. So every week you should be getting an updated email for your website properties. And those should be outlining your scoring for accessibility, broken links, web governance, best practice, spell check, SEO, and the overall performance score. For accessibility, what we're testing there are the WCAG success criteria. that can be automated. So we will be, the things that are under accessibility will be those WCAG 2.1A and AA criteria that most higher ed organizations are concerned about because that is what most legal standards point to. So just know that the accessibility issues that are being referenced, those are the website content accessibility guideline success criteria. Those are not things that we are making up or proprietary. Those are things that are true flags against the WCAG criteria, which is the generally adopted standard for how to make a website accessible. Under broken links, what you'll be getting are reports on things that are, say, 404 links, 404 broken link. You could possibly get other sort of broken link codes. If you do feel like under broken links you're getting false positives, I do encourage you to reach out to support to chat with us so that we can either figure out what we need to do to hone your report that's being sent to you to make it more meaningful, or to verify that they are actually true broken links that do need to be addressed. Sometimes I see where we'll report a broken link, but it will be a redirect that is pointing to a link that works. And sometimes that redirect is programmed to report as a broken link. And that's usually an indicator that it should still be updated to be pointing to the final destination of that URL. We don't automatically test or report redirects as broken links unless they're reporting as broken versus a redirect. So just a little caveat there. But if you do feel like your report is getting broken links that are, inundating your report that aren't actual broken links, just let us know. And there's a quick question that has come in that says, my understanding from UVA digital accessibility website is that while we need to comply with WCAG 2.1, we're aiming for WCAG 2.2 AA. Can the system be set for WCAG 2.2 for individual units? Great question. I was actually just meeting with engineering on how we're going to update the interface to incorporate the 2.2 verbiage. So WCAG 2.2 is WCAG 2.1. So anything you are doing to address WCAG 2.1 will be addressing WCAG 2.2. The difference is WCAG 2.2 has 9 new success criteria. Of that, I believe only 6 of them are in the A and AA category. And I think like 4 to 5 of those require manual review. So we do have the ability to add those criteria to your sites. And we are currently working through how we're going to make that more of a consistent messaging throughout the app. So stay tuned for more information on that. That's a great question. And we're just trying to get over the hump of that. Most people are trying to address those 2.1 criteria because that is what the legal standards reference. But most people who are trying to do a great job of accessibility do want to stay up on the current standards. And so how to make the 2.2 criteria be able to show in line, or the additional criteria in line with those criteria that everyone pretty much has to meet. So we will have definitely more information on that to come. But just know that if you are addressing 2.1 criteria, you are working towards 2.2. And the priority should be definitely handling the 2.1 things because they've been in the queue for the longest period of time. And feel free to type more questions as you go. Can you provide a list of all the WCAG success criteria that DubBot is assessing, i.e. those for which assessments can be automated versus those that DubBot does not assess, i.e. those that require manual review? Definitely. And I will get into that in the app and show that screen when we get to that part of the webinar, if that's okay. But definitely a good question and a good reminder to highlight that section. I love the questions. And so then the next category that we do are web governance checks. So those are going to be out of the box flagged words. And then you will also be able to add in policies for different sorts of things that you would want to enforce on your sites. So right now we do have a policy added in for just checking alt text that's less than 12 characters. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily wrong. It just means that it might not be as descriptive as it could be. So that is something that is a threshold we could update if it becomes like something where an image has been reviewed and maybe there's something that you're doing in there that we could sort of allow for in the policy. But I'll also show how to ignore possible policies as well. Um, but just know with the web governance policies, you can add in, or we can add in for you, policies to look for any piece of text, a link URL, a sort of pattern of text that you're looking for. We were just working with another organization where they sent us some ideas out of their branding guideline that they wanted to make sure like proper punctuation was used for the different degree um, PhD, MS, MA, those sort of things. So we can add in policies for your different sites if there is something that you're looking for. Are the web governance policy institution-wide or for the specific site? Good question. They can be for your specific site. So if there's something specifically for you, we can make it just for your set of sites. So we could rule it in to be for the full account. But if there is something that you're specifically concerned about, we can add it to your site without affecting anybody else's. We can also make searches informational so they don't impact the score. So if you're just trying to locate something and it's not necessarily wrong, we can do that. Can we add our own policies for our respective units ourselves, or does DubBot have to do that? So at this point in time, unless you are added to have global account admin access, you'll need to just go through support and you will find that we are very quick to respond to any support issues that come in between that 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. hour. And this will allow us to help you make the policy as efficient as possible. A lot of times when people say, oh, I want to find this URL, ultimately it ends up being in the header and footer. And then we need to set up an exclusion to not flag every page because of that. So just ping us on support and we're happy to get it added to your site. Support is answered by real people at DubBot. So this isn't going to be AI responding. You're not going to be chatting with a chat bot trying to get support. You will be getting real people throughout the day. Yeah, we'll be able to roll those into your sites very quickly and point you to where the reports are for those. We are working on containerizing that so eventually you will be able to do self-service with it. But we want to make the user interface more friendly for people to be able to do that on their own sites. We do best practice checks. So these are going to be things that are known web standards. So making sure headings are in proper order, making sure headings aren't empty. There's a few other more technical things in there, but these are going to be things that are just well-known, established web standards, not necessarily not barriers to accessibility, but things that could improve the usability of your website. Then we do spell check. We can customize the dictionary for your site. If you are a site manager or site admin, you will be able to add words to your dictionary. And if you are a site admin, you will be able to bulk upload words to your dictionary, which I will highlight in a moment as well. You're also welcome to make any requests through support to help you with that. And then the last check that we do is SEO. We're not a full-on analytics tool. We are leaning more into accessibility testing as our tool grows and matures. So just know that our focus going forward is accessibility. And so what we're doing with SEO are basic checks for title, description, and the length. We do offer a Google Analytics connector, and we are going to be working more in the way of integrating with other analytics systems versus building out our own analytics. So if you do want a Google Analytics tied into your account, we can help you with getting that set up so that you can see your Google Analytics, and that would give you like the top level, like visited page numbers, and then you could see that in line with the accessibility and other sort of checks that are being done. And we had another question come in that says, can we each add our own policies for respective units? Oh, I think I already answered that one. So, yes, we would need to add that unless you are an admin of your account, and we would just make sure that we're adding them to the web properties that you manage. So I have already gotten into support. So when you log into DubBot, we offer a chat support option. We do also offer phone and email. And there's one other way that I'll show you how we've integrated support into our system. But this is the most popular way that people get help from us so that you're not having to look up how to contact us. Is through the support bots, or not support bot, the support chat. It's real people, as I mentioned, and most of the people answering the chat, they have backgrounds in higher education and also accessibility testing. Right now online, I have Amy, who used to work for Brandeis in MIT at one point, and she went and did some work with Acquia for a while. We have Joni, who used to work for University of North Georgia as a web admin. And then we have Alvin, who works for us part-time, and he is a professor at James Madison University. So these are all people who have backgrounds in higher education and web admining and accessibility testing. And so we have a few other people on the team, but just know that you'll be getting in contact with real people who, have sat in your seats in a lot of cases. The other thing I want to highlight up here under the little icon when you log in, there is a help center. So with that, I can try to pop that open. Let me see if it opened in my new tab. See, Zoom is always in the wrong place for me. Let's see. It's not opening on there. So let me open in new tab. Let me see. So that will open. I'm just trying not to lose my place in the app. To here. And in our help center, we have a whole series on using DubBot, setting up DubBot. We do have a training video and certification center with some videos about using DubBot and accessibility basics and more in-depth accessibility videos. We have release updates. We have a policy library. So if you're wanting to see other common policies that can be added into your account, there's some there just out of the box. We have accessibility help series. We have other custom policy details and different reports that people have asked for. So just know we do have a full help center. It is always available from under this top right icon. You can also, the chat support is integrated with our help center. So you can also search right within here, the help center, for different information as well if you're looking for just text details on something versus chatting with somebody. Under your profile, there are a few options that I do want to highlight. You can update your notification settings. So if you are a manager of a group of sites and you decide that the daily digest is too much, you can change it to a weekly digest. You can also filter to only get reports emailed to you for specific sites. So if you want to, log into DubBot and browse the information versus getting emailed reports of all of your properties, you can change those settings under notification settings. Also, I do want to highlight under here, I think it's under your details, there is this option to underline all links. So if you're having trouble of knowing what's a button versus not a button, this is something that we added in for people who say are can't see the color of the, what's a link versus not a link. You can choose in the DubBot app to underline all links, just to give you another affordance of where things are linked in the system. So we do meet the WCAG criteria for color contrast of background and foreground, and things in content blocks standing out enough color contrast wise. But we do want to be as accessible as possible. So if you are finding yourself challenged of what is linked and what isn't, you can switch that over to have all links underlined in the system. And I'm going to go ahead and turn that on for this user so you can kind of see what that looks like. And so you'll see here on this table now, all of these things are underlined where before they were not. And I can go back into my profile and change it to not have them. And you'll see now that it looks like a kind of table of numbers. Can units create site level custom reports without full admin permission? We can help you do that through support. So I will talk through some options here, and then you can ping us on support to help set up any sort of custom reporting, and that could be sectioning off what content from a site is included in a report. And it can also include what specific issues you'd want to see in a report on your dashboard that gets emailed to you. So those are things that have not been containerized for site admins, but we will support you in getting those configured. So I'm even happy to meet with anybody on these calls to help figure out what we could configure to make your workflow better with DubBot. So just know that it's not something that we have exposed in the app that's available to anybody that's not account admins, but we can work through those setups with you either via screen share or through the support chat. Um, so yeah. So coming back over here, I just put this in front of my screen. So you have the help center here, you have your profile, you can update your little icon that's being used. That will always be available in DubBot no matter where you are. Same thing with the chat app, that's going to be consistent. And then the other things that are consistent throughout the app is the dashboards link, the tasks link, the settings, and then this little drop down here and the DubBot icon. The DubBot icon is something that is something that you'll probably start to use if you use the system a lot. And I'll talk through that functionality in a little bit. But for now, when you log into DubBot, you will likely be dropped on your dashboard screen. For the user I'm demoing with, I just gave them sort of a spattering of different sites access along with what I would say is a page set dashboard. So these are the different dashboards I have access to. And the majority of these are sites in DubBot that are being tested. But then we have this one accessibility page set that is a combination of sites. So this accessibility page set dashboard is combining a few of my sites into a singular dashboard for reporting. So we do have the ability to make combined reporting for your web properties. And when you get access to DubBot, we will be creating those based on your previous, any previous access that you had. So just look for those and know if there is something that isn't in a combined report that you would like, that you have access to. We can help configure that as well after you get logged in. So just know that there is the ability to access the dashboards for specific sites, but we also have the ability to combine those sites into a singular dashboard. And you also have the ability to filter a site to a specific section for a dashboard. So we do have quite a few options here. So when you log in, you will see what you have access to on the dashboards. You can also switch to the settings panel, and that will show you what is a part of those sites, what domain is being inventoried as those sites. And I did mention that DubBot does crawling on a regular cadence for testing. So within that, you will have the ability to see when it was last tested and when it's next going to test. So we can see that a few of these sites are set for October 25th, and then the others are October 29th, 30th, and 23rd. We can see what pages were found. And we can also see that this one actually right here, UVA accessibility site, is currently crawling. So there is one site that is currently in kind of a state of limbo right now, but it's a smaller site, so I imagine it'll finish pretty quickly. From here, you can access those site dashboards as well. But if you are a site admin, you can also go into the site itself. Oh, sorry, I thought it was going to take me into settings. I must have done something with this user's permission where I didn't set them to be an admin of the site. Give me 1 second and let me just switch that user over. It should not take me very long at all. So just give me 1 moment. I'm going to want you to see the full abilities of this user as a site admin. Yes, here we go. So this will give us a better representation of what options you will have in the system. So let me go ahead and hit refresh. Okay, so now As a site admin, if there is ever a time that I need to retest the full site, I will have the ability to crawl that site. So crawling is how we will go back to your web server and download the copies of the pages. And then what we'll do is we'll look within those pages to see if there are any other links within that domain, and then download those pages and then keep doing that like a spider for a search engine would do for SEO. We're going to do that, but we're going to be running our tests along with the downloaded copy that we make. So in the subscription, you can crawl as many times as you need or want. So there is no real harm in queuing up a crawl between that weekly cadence. So just know that is an option to you for if you need to retest. So say you make a big change on your site to something and you want to retest it to get the reports to update, you can crawl in between that weekly cadence. So, and that would be done through this interface. But what I was also going to show is over here, when you click on a site, you can make updates to the check settings. So if we did need to add bulk words to a dictionary, we can do that. We can also customize the language being used in the dictionary, but this is where we can manage the checks that are being done on our specific site. And that is under the settings screen. So the other screen that looks very similar to it is the dashboard screen. And so this is going to give us, again, the page count of what has been found, but it's also going to give us links to the issues list of the issues that have been found. So we could easily jump into the broken links that were found on the academic accessibility site by clicking this link, or we can access the dashboard by coming over here and clicking here. The other thing that is static throughout the site or throughout DubBot is this dropdown where you can access those dashboards as well. So if you're wanting to bounce between dashboards, you don't necessarily have to come back to this dashboard screen. But this does give you a good overview of like all of your properties and the issues. And you can also, with any of these tables, usually sort them by the information that is the column header. Where you see these rectangular vertical rectangles, you can usually customize the rows being shown. So if we wanted to see like this score, we could add that into this table. Where we see a down arrow pointing, that means the content is downloadable. I'm going to bump up my font one more. So it might make the rows a little wonky, but I think it's easier to see this way. So you also have this search. So anywhere you see that, if you have a huge list of sites, you can filter to a specific site using the search. I often just use this drop down to jump to the different sites. I'm going to go to the compliance office site because I thought it was a nice little dashboard. Let me go ahead and bump back down a font. Every dashboard that you have will have the score, and then you'll have the number of pages. This is a link to the full list of pages that have been found within the site. And so if you're looking for a report on a very specific page that you have access to, you will navigate to the site, and then from within the overall site panel, you will click on the page list. And then here you can use this to filter down to what page you're looking for. So this can be a full URL if you want, or it can be just a specific text string. So we could have put the full screen. So that would be how, if somebody says like, how is the accreditation page performing? We can go ahead and go to the full list of pages and then filter down to that one page. And then we can click on it and we can see on the left side where all of the different testing criteria will be provided. And we can jump through what those issues are that were found on the page. Additionally, on the left, you will have the option to share out this page. So if somebody is saying like, hey, I just want to look at this one page, you don't necessarily have to give them access to DubBot. You can share them the page if you would like. So that is up to you. But you can add them in, or we can add them into your site for you. Again, that is something that you can just request through support for us to add users to your account, to your specific sites. But you can also just share them, and this would give them a view-only version of this page. and they would be able to click through the left sidebar to see the different issues that have been flagged for this page. So it looks like download file is used multiple times on this page, and it goes to different URLs. And I'll get into the page preview in a moment, but I just wanted to highlight that that is one of the main ways people use DubBot. It's one of the main workflows is I want to see how a specific page is performing. You would go through this link, you would hit the search, and then you'd put in the URL. Or if your site is small, you can just go through and view the page in the list. You can change your pagination if you want. But that is one of the main workflows. You'll notice I'm using this bot icon when I end up like navigating through a site. This becomes a quick link back to the site's dashboard. So just know that you can always click that bot icon to get back to the dashboard of the site you were in. The other way that is a common navigation workflow for users is say you want to look at the issues found on a site. So if I want to see the accessibility issues, I can go to the accessibility panel and I will click the 16 issues button. There is sometimes some confusion that you'll see that here it says 15 pages, but overall in this site, we've found 40 pages. With this is that there have only been 15 pages in this site that have an accessibility issue flagged. And there's only one page with 3 broken links found. So that's why this page number doesn't usually match up to this page count. That is not an issue. So in each panel, you'll be able to go to either the issues list or the list of pages with that issue. So most people through here will go to the issues list to be able to browse the issues. And we had a question earlier on about how to see the tests that are being done for the success criteria to know where you might need to do manual testing. So up here in the top right, I want to call your attention to the view success criteria button. And you'll see where we have the different issues and the success criteria that those issues map to. So you can click through this list. There are 93 different tests being done. Some tests, some WCAG criteria will have multiple tests, just because there's different ways that things would be non-text content. So we have a host of different ways of testing for that. And you also have different ways of marking up what an image would be in HTML. So we test for all of those different ways to make sure that all of those have alt text. So just see that's the view success criteria. We also do, if you are interested, ping me. You should, if you've got the email invite, email me and I can send you, we have a nice spreadsheet that goes through the criteria that don't have automated tests and what our recommendation would be. And also we do have the ability to add in policies to make recommendations for what to review on your site that would require manual testing. So we do have some options there, but I would start here with the view success criteria button. We also have, I always like to say the view you go into when you click on the issues list for accessibility. This is the glass half empty view. This is what's wrong with the site or what's been flagged. But we also have the page issues tested, where you can see the different checks that are being done that have flagged 0. You can filter by level. And this is where we're talking about adding in more verbiage on WCAG 2.2 to make it more clear on the standards. And also here we provide the standard and what the criteria is. So usually in this, we'll decide if we want to look at the issues with color contrast because that has the most issues flagged, or do we want to deal with frames needing an accessible name? We can go ahead and click that if that's like, okay, let's see what this one page is with that issue. So let's go ahead and click there. When you do go into a page, it will give you, open up, it will do its best to highlight what the issue is, where the issue is on the page. And then it will give you a summary of what is being flagged. We provide links to our help document on more information on it. We provide links to the WCAG criteria along with section 508 details that are related. We provide the element location and element source. While this makes the tool more look more technical, we provide this because somebody who is not able to see the highlighting in this page, we need to provide them another affordance. So we're giving them the HTML element so that they would know where in that page that is getting highlighted. We also do have this little button that focus within preview frame. This was a recommendation by one of our users that has low vision, that they wanted their to have a button that would move their mouse, their keyboard cursor or tab to where the issue is in the page. So that's another nice feature, that if the highlighting isn't obvious, that you might be able to use that to jump your keyboard focus to that area of the page. We also provide the failure summary that provides recommendations on how to fix the issue. So for this, our recommendation is basically to add a title with details to the iframe. So you'll see in here that this is an iframe and there is no title element provided. Let me see, there's another question coming in, but yeah, so this needs a title with the details of what's in here. So I see you indicate a severity level. Is it possible to filter on severity levels when reviewing results? Yes, and I will show how to do that in a moment. But while we're in this page, I do want to highlight that we have actions on here, and just depending on your user permission level, you may be able to ignore an issue on the page or for the specific site. If you're in this view and you ignore on the site, it will log this HTML element with the issue, and it will only ignore that issue with this HTML element. Sorry, I have a sneeze coming on. So in here, if you ignore on this site, it will only be ignoring this element. So it will still report other iframes that don't have titles. I always say ignore with caution for accessibility issues. Before you ignore an issue that is accessibility related, I would encourage you strongly to just reach out to our support as a sanity check. Just like say, hey, I'm going to ignore this. Do you think it's appropriate? Or, I think this is a false flag, and we appreciate having that information because we do pride our tool on limiting the number of false flags that we provide. And so if there's something that I think a couple years ago, there was something YouTube was doing that YouTube embeds were flagging like as having an accessibility issue, but it was really like a very like, it wasn't the feature people were using the YouTube embed for. And so like a lot of people were able to ignore it because it wasn't like core functionality for why they were using that. And there was like another way of providing. Anyway, so just let us know because we like to like include information if there is something that is like that in our help center for other users. So, but otherwise we can just be like a second point of like verifying that like, okay, that makes sense what you're doing. The other option in here is to make a task. And so you can assign to people within your group in your site properties and also your admins of DubBot account. But also in here is DubBot support. This is another way to get access to support through DubBot. So say you don't have time to chat with us and you're looking for a better, like another method to just email us and not look up our email, you can use the DubBot support to assign a task. And what this will do is you can just type us your question. You don't have to include what the issue is or what the page is. We'll get emailed all of that information already. And you can just ask your question. That will add a comment in line. And then when we reply, you will get an email with that information as well as our reply will be in line. So it's a good way to collaborate. Like I work with a team of people. We usually or used to have to like send screenshots back and forth with marking up, the different like what we're talking about. A task will allow the user to just like look within the system and get the highlighting, and then there will be a record of the communication happening. If the issue is fixed, resolved on the next scan, it will close that issue for you, so you don't necessarily have to come back and like close all of the things that you open. But if it's still there, the task will remain with all of the comments. If the issue goes away and then comes back, the task will reopen with the comments that were made on it. So just know that that's a good other way to get support and also to collaborate within DubBot. Up here, This task button will take you to all of the open tasks on your system, and you can filter to who it's assigned to, and other things like that. You also have the option, if say you want to ask a question about a page, or you want to add something as, a flag on a page, you could make a task around it and assign it to somebody, not necessarily tied to a specific issue. So if there's something on this page that you want to address that hasn't been flagged, you can always make a task around a page. So coming back to the issues list, I went through the frames. We have some elements must meet minimum color contrast, so we can go to one of those. It looks like within here, this little gray area, text doesn't have a deep contrast. It's really up to you on whether that's something that is core functionality on here. The thing I do want to highlight is, if you are concerned about, like, is this the actual rendering of the colors, we can click here, and this will open the page on the live site, and we can see, yes, that is an accurate representation of the colors on the page. We can also, with color contrast issues, you can see what colors are being tested, just as another sanity check, because sometimes people are like, well, that doesn't look like that. Is this really, picking up the right colors? So you can see that that is truly what it looks like it is there. And we provide the information that it's only 4.13. So you could even play with these sliders. It doesn't make the changes to the to the web page, but it does give you an idea of something you could ask somebody. Like, you could say, can you change this color to be using this color code? And there's a good question on here. Can you make corrections to issues found on the pages within the DubBot platform, or do we have to make corrections outside the platform? For the most part, you do have to make the changes outside of the platform. I know that some of your sites use Drupal. We have integrated the view in Drupal button up here. So there is a possibility of a workflow to go from the page in DubBot to the page in the CMS. If the view in button is not readily available, we might need to look at what is going on, that the ID wasn't found on the page, because this looks like a Drupal page, and for some reason, we'll look at that after the training to see what's going on. I know I saw it. Let me go to, saw it on another site of yours. I'm just clicking through some of the pages. Yeah, so it's on this one. So you'll see just an idea that you can go from view in and into Drupal. And this will take you to the account, the page in Drupal. From the last screen, it looked like the task user relationship was limited to system users, but is it possible to add read-only users from a custom list at the site level? So that list will update as we add users that are assigned to the site. Those users will appear in that list as well. We just have admin users in the system right now. So as the users get added to the system and they have access to that web property, they should show in that. I do think we have an outstanding issue to be able to add email addresses to a task. So I can follow up and see where that's at in our sort of development roadmap. But while I'm on this page, because it has a few more issues worth highlighting, we have broken links. So we are testing for, here you can see the 404s. When you're on a broken link, you can test it by opening it in a new window to confirm that it is a 404. So that is something that we would want to update in this site. So that's where we would use this view in, and we would open up Drupal, we would make the update, we would click publish in Drupal, and then if we wanted, we could refresh content on this page. Every user will have the ability to refresh content, and that means just test this page, and then it would update all of the reports. So this refresh content button is a nice way of being able to, instead of having to queue up the whole site to crawl, if you're making page changes to individual pages, you can just click refresh content within here to just retest the content. This should take a matter of maybe a minute. The problem with the refresh content that I will say is that browsers won't refresh automatically to reflect the change that's picked up. So after you click refresh content on here, you'll see the wheels start spinning. But I would say after you do that, give it a minute and then click the refresh button on your browser to see the date timestamp update here. And then that should show that you have one less broken link if that's what you fixed. And we have a question of we have a number of pages behind net badge. Will those show up as 404 pages if the bot can't get behind net badge to test? Great question. Those would likely show up as 403 links protected. So we would not report those as broken links. So as long as it responds as a 403 and we don't report on, we can report on 403s, but typically we turn off 403 reporting because it usually means it's a password protected URL. We do have the ability to do crawls behind authentication. And so if there is, say, a net badge login that we could provide, we might be able to test the link to not do a 403 response, but that would be something we'd need to chat with offline. So I do want to go ahead and just go back down this list. So there's spelling. This is a case where it's probably an okay word. You could decide whether you add to the site dictionary or whether you just ignore on this page. And then we have the web governance check. And so this is the logo. This is something that we'll go ahead and create an allowance for in the system so that it doesn't flag on every page. And then we have our basic SEO checks. And this is where you would also, if we do set up the Google Analytics connector for your site, you'll get Google Analytics data right here within the SEO panel as well. We do some basic readability tests. And then we provide like the header technical stuff here. But coming back over here, that's the broken link list. We have the web governance list. And then I do want to, there was the question about the impact level. On your dashboard, you will have an accessibility detail report. And from here, you can click here. And one of the columns you can turn on is the issue impact for that. So if you do want to see the issue impact, you can see it from that accessibility detail report on your dashboard. You'll just need to turn on the column. We're working to add that column to the other issue screen as well. So just know that the impact level, you can see it in whole here in that accessibility detail report. And there was a question here. Can you make corrections to issue? Oh, can we submit it? Oh, so yeah, we'll be happy to put that as a feature idea. We are working to provide more tight integration with systems like Drupal and WordPress that are open source. And we do have a Drupal module that can be installed in Drupal where you can see your DubBot information in Drupal. That's kind of the route we're going with this, is to provide more in your CMS so that while you're working in your CMS, you can see the DubBot information. But good question. And we do take feature requests from all of our users. Our roadmap, we are a higher education focused tool. So just know that if you do have an idea for something that can improve your workflow, let us know. We really do like to hear the issues that are important to you. Is the issue impact for each issue hard-coded, or is it configurable with our account? The ones for accessibility issues are currently hard-coded. On the task, I think you can set what severity the issue, you can upgrade the task, but with the issues, it's out of the box. We actually use the DQ Axe as our issues library. So that's where that information comes from. In here, we also have the spelling issues list. So you can see that that word was used on 2 pages. Again, it's just like the other workflow where you can click into it and navigate to the page with the issue. Coming over here. So the other panel I want to talk with is just quick wins. This is where if we do make a policy that isn't scored under quick wins, you'll be able to access those through your informational searches. And you can also filter to pages with open tasks. But otherwise, this is a nice way of navigating all of those screens and just stay within the dashboard. All of that information is available within the quick wins panel. And then we do have the custom reports panel. I highlighted the accessibility detail report already. These can be shared out of the system. So if I go to the dashboard report, this is going to be a snapshot of your dashboard at the last time of crawl. You can share it out using the share report button. It's an HTML report. We don't provide PDF reports. Those are notoriously not accessible. So HTML is just more easy for people to use and easier to make accessible. In here, we'll also provide the top issues found, the pages with the most issues found for each category. So this is a nice little report, and you can go back in time to see the different states of the site. The other thing I did want to highlight, just to give you a little idea. So these are the different sites I gave this user access to, but this user also had access to the accessibility page set, which is a combined dashboard of these two sites in the system. So we can make dashboards that group sites together, and it would combine the scoring, it would combine the issues list, it would combine the page list, and all of that stuff more easily navigable for you. But otherwise, I will say that the dashboard is the same for a page set where it's combining sites. It's going to have that extra panel to show what is being combined. So let's see, I've covered the settings screen, the dashboard screen. We've gone through the dashboards that are available. These reports down here are customizable, so you can add more, we can add more reports if there's something like, if you want to report for specific accessibility issues, we can add a report on your dashboard grouping a set of accessibility issues. If there's a specific accessibility issue, we can make a report around that. If you want a broken links report that can be shared outside of the system, we can add that to your dashboard. So if you do have questions on, further customizing this section, feel free to reach out to support and we'll be happy to work with you to figure out what we can add to your sites once you have access. So that is, can I go over the readability more if possible? We are also concerned with improving. Yes, we are working to provide a more central dashboard right now. But right now you can go with to here to see the page with readability as a way of sorting based on the score. And so you'll see that we provide, whether it's like college, graduate, or we can go ahead and sort down. And again, these screens are downloadable. So if you want to get the, pages that are considered like 10th to 12th grade, you can do that. Doesn't look like there are any. There's the college one. So if you want to focus on the pages that are, determined to have the highest score, you can use that filter for that. But we're working to make a new dashboard for this area. We're just working on where we're going to link it because we've had a fair amount of feedback about people wanting to focus on readability. Let's see. There's a question about things being all caps and that dashboards, tasks, and settings. So the recommendation is not to have full sentences in all caps, that it makes things hard to read. But if it's one-off words, it's okay. So there isn't a problem with a screen reader reading something in all caps. It's just, it makes it harder to read. And so if it's like big chunks of paragraphs or sentences, you don't want to provide something in all caps. So I'm happy to answer any other questions. We got about 4 minutes left. I hope that this was helpful for people. I know it was a lot. Again, we are supporting you and all your users. So if there's something you need us to fire up a screen sharing session with to walk through independently with you, or to kind of talk through your needs and your use cases, we're happy to work with you independently on that. What advice do you have for a site that has 30,000 pages? It's a good question. So we work a lot with higher education, and this is a consistent thing that we see. I would recommend, if possible, to be able to separate out what pages or what sections of the site are considered being updated versus ones that are not. So with that, we can break down a site using a sitemap based on priority level. We can make crawls for the site and then recombine them using a page set to make that singular reporting. Or we can make a site crawl one section and have that section crawl less often, and then have the rest of it crawl more frequently. So I was working with somebody just yesterday where we took their 10,000 page site, and I know it's not 30,000, but just as an example, we took a 10,000 page site and the directory is 6,000 of those pages. And so we're saying the directory only needs to crawl every month to pick up new members. And then the rest of the site can crawl every week. And so that is meaning that that site, the one that's being updated more, will be and less templated, will crawl more frequently and more quickly return results. So I would say try to find places where we could break it up and then we can recombine it using a singular report. And y'all are welcome to unmute yourself if you want. We just do that as a way so that people don't join and not know they're not muted, and get caught on the hot mic, basically. So we're really excited to have you all start using DubBot. I do want to mention that I did mention we are big in the higher ed space. We are working with the likes of Virginia Tech, George Mason, James Madison University in your area. But we also work with the likes of University of Washington, Princeton, and a lot of Kentucky, Kansas. So we are used by my major organizations across the country. When will we receive access to DubBot? We are adding users over the next week. I think the plan right now is just to get SSO rolled into production so that when you do go to log into DubBot, you're able to just log in with your university credentials. And once that's ready, we'll have the users added. So just plan for it to be over the next week. The question is how stated about contacting support to add custom governance policies. However, if we find an existing governance policy in the policy library that meets our needs, are we able to add it ourselves, or does it, you would need to ask support just to add it for you. So, and I will say, like, people, it sounds onerous to ask you to contact support, but it really is just type it into support and we'll get it taken care of for you very quickly. So please don't feel like that's a barrier to using the system. The thing I did fail to mention is over here on the right, if you find something like a web governance policy or flagged word needs to be ignored, if you're a site admin, you will also have that option to ignore through this triple dot option. Again, if it is an accessibility issue, please ask our support just as a second means to verify that it's something that is good to ignore. But otherwise, we can also audit what has been ignored and by who through this ignored issues full list. So you can audit that every now and then if you're concerned about people ignoring. What are the limits of UVA's DubBot account subscription? Is it based on page count or some other metric? It is based on page count, and it's not the number of scans being performed, it's the overall footprint in the system. And there's a question.
Hi, thanks, Penny.
Mhm.
I was wondering if you had any sense as to whether the crawls slow down site performance while they're happening, and maybe if there's a way to schedule them for times of lower traffic, or just curious what
Sure.
you know about.
Sure. Not typically. It doesn't usually like it's the same as somebody visiting your site. Just that they're clicking through. We do have the ability to throttle the crawler if you do see issues, so we can set up delays in between accessing pages, and we can also schedule the crawls to happen at specific times in days of the week if you prefer. So just reach out to support if there's something that you're like, we're seeing this issue, and we'll help you make the update. But it's under settings on the site.
Great, thank you so much.
Sure. So everyone, thank you for staying for a couple minutes after. Again, if you need anything or have any questions, we're available on support. We'll be sharing this video out as soon as it's exported and uploaded for your ability to download. But we really look forward to working with you.